Amir je za ovu priču saznao sa više strana, ponajviše od oca dok su igrali košarku ili neki drugi sport. Neke delove je saznao i od majke i dede, kao i sa starih snimaka. Njegov otac je bio u palestinskoj oslobodilačkoj organizaciji sa ekipama koji jure špijune. Pošto su smetali Izraelu, uhapšeni su. Amirov otac proveo je 12 godina u ratnom zatvoru. 2 meseca pre hapšenja Amirova majka je zatrudnela. Svih tih 12 godina je čekala njegovog oca dok nije izašao. Borila se za opstanak. Dok je bio u zatvoru, Amirov otac je primetio da tamo postoje 2 vrste ljudi. Jedni koji samo čekaju da izađu i dobiju državnu penziju kao zarobljenici i drugi koji rade, čitaju i bore se za sebe. On je brzo shvatio da treba da se pridruži drugima. U zatvoru je mnogo čitao, svašta je naučio. Kad je izašao, imao je samo diplomu srednje škole, ali je imao i mnogo znanja. Sa 32 godine je nastavio fakultet, a zatim i master i doktorat. Sada se bavi Bliskim istokom, predaje na fakultetu, postoje stručnjak za sistem Izraela i bio pregovarač. Govori arapski, engleski i hebrejski. Amirov otac nakon svega toga zna da je dobro odabrao što se u zatvoru pridružio ekipi koja je čitala i radila. Sada živi dobar, srećan život sa njegovom majkom, mnogo putuju i mogu sebi da obezbede sve što požele.
Miševi u pomoć. Postoji jedno napušteno selo. Godinama tu niko nije živeo, dok se u selu nisu nastanili miševi. Vremenom su miševi sredili selo tako da njima odgovara, napravili su kanale i izgradili kuće ispod zemlje. Jednog dana, krdo slonova se uputilo ka jezercetu blizu mišjeg sela. Krenuli su tamo da se odmore i popiju vodu, međutim, dok su prolazili mišjim selom, oštetili su te kanale i kuće ispod zemlje koje su miševi napravili. Kada su stigli do jezera, pojavio se glavni miš. Ko je ovde glavni? Pitao je glavni miš. Mi u ovom selu živimo već godinama i došli smo da vas zamolimo da u povratku ne prolazite ovuda nego drugim putem. Trudili smo se da izgradimo kuće i kanale, a sada su oni oštećeni jer ste vi prošli tuda. Mi znamo da naš trud vama ništa ne znači, ali ko zna, možda će vam nekada trebati naša pomoć. Na to se slon nasmejao. Nema šanse da će nama od miša trebati neka usluga. Ali dobro, hajde, vratit ćemo se drugim putem. Slonovi su ispoštovali dogovor i krenuli sa jezera nazad drugim putem. Međutim, tu je bila klopka. Kralj je znao da će slonovi tuda da prođu, pa su ih njegovi ljudi opkolili i pohvatali. Ubacili su ih u mrežu i vezali ih za drveće. Jedan slon je uspeo da umakne kraljevim ljudima. Pošto nije mogao da pomogne, otišao je kod miševa. Treba nam vaša pomoć, rekao je. Na njegovu molbu miševi su krenuli ka mestu gde su slonovi vezani. Krenuli su da grizu mrežu, grizli su i grizli, dok nisu uspeli da oslobode slonove. Tada su slonovi shvatili da nije trebalo da omalovažavaju miševe, jer su ih, iako tako mali i naizgled nebitni, uspeli osloboditi iz kraljeve zamke.
There was a man named Joha. One day he went to the market, saw a donkey there, and wanted to buy it. The seller priced it high, but Joha bargained until he convinced him to sell it for the money he had on him. He tied the donkey and started back home. Nearby there were 2 thieves who spotted Joha, followed him, and saw that he was lost in his own world. One managed to untie the donkey and escape with it, while the other tied himself to the rope the donkey was tied to. When he got home, Joha turned around and was surprised. "Where's the donkey?" The man said to him, "It's me. Thank you so much, you saved me. I wasn't good. I didn't listen to my mom, so God turned me into a donkey. Thank you for saving me." Joha, full of pride, untied him and let him go. And he told him, "Please be good, listen to your parents, and don't cause trouble." The next day, Joha went to the market again, and there was the same donkey. Joha quickly sneaked up to him and whispered, "There you go! Didn't I tell you to listen to your mom?" In a kingdom, there lived a king who had a daughter, a princess. A disease spread through the kingdom, causing people to suddenly develop sores on their bodies. Most of the population fell ill, including the princess. The king announced that whoever could find a cure would be given everything, the kingdom and the princess, just to heal the people and his child. Various princes and nobles from neighboring kingdoms came forward, but none succeeded in helping. One day, a young man from a village appeared and promised to find a cure. He was so convincing that the king believed him and placed all his hopes in him. The young man embarked on a long journey. He got into a boat and began to sail, letting fate guide him. Suddenly, a light shone upon him and he heard a voice telling him to go to a nearby island and gather certain plants. Once he gathered them, the voice would return and tell him what to do with them. On the island, the young man gathered the plants exactly as the voice had instructed. After collecting them, the light and voice reappeared, instructing him to go to a nearby swamp, collecting mud from it and mix it with the plants. The young man reached the swamp by boat, dipped his hand in, retrieving the mud, and mixed it with the plants as the voice had instructed. At that moment, the light appeared for the third time, and the voice announced one more trial for the young man. It gave him a sword with which he had to kill a wolf, and mix the wolf's fat with the plants and mud. The young man found the wolf and fought with him for a long time. In the end, he managed to pierce the wolf with the sword and extract the fat from its belly. He mixed the fat with the other ingredients as the voice had instructed. At that moment, Saint Nicholas appeared from the light. He said to the young man, "With this you will save the kingdom. Now go, and you will see everything will be all right." The young man returned to the kingdom, where everyone had already lost hope. They first applied the remedy to the princess, and when they saw it worked, they used it on the entire population. When everyone was healed, the king, as promised, gave the young man his kingdom and the princess with whom he lived happily ever after.
U suštini jedna od tih priča koja se priča je ta priča o Bibliji. Mi smo pravoslavni Romi i onda mi sad tu Bibliju označavamo kao slavu, kao što pravoslavci slave svoju slavu zaštitnika. Mi u suštini nju slavimo, međutim ona nije priznata u crkvi i onda tipa taj dan, pošto je obično šetajući praznik, nije uvek isti dan, generalno pop koji dođe da čita molitvu, on se moli za tog sveca koji je taj dan. Tako da generalno ne pominje Bibliju i ne znam nija šta. Mi imamo ikonu koja je naslikana, ali opet to crkva ne priznaje, ne prepoznaje kao neku zaštitnicu ili sveticu ili ne znam šta. A generalna priča koja se kod nas prenosi o njoj jeste da je to zapravo bila jedna žena koja je išla, putovala sad u ovom kontekstu Srbijom, ali kao svetom, i da je to jedna stara žena koja je kao beskućnik, da kažem, bila i onda je tražila tako sklonište dok je putovala i generalno ljudi koji su je puštali u kuću, koji su je pomagali da pređe taj neki svoj put, ona je pomagala njihovoj deci, odnosno zaštitila je njihovu decu, izlečila je njihovu decu, tako jedna priča o nekom čoveku gde je ona došla opet tako kao slučajno, gde on imao neku bolesno dete i onda su oni nju ugostili, dali su joj hranu, dali su joj mesto da spava i onda je ona tako sedela u ćošku sa strane i oni su svi bili malo uplašeni zašto je ona tako čutljiva ili zašto je tako, da kažem, ne priča ni sa kim, a imali su to jedno kao bolesno dete. I onda je, pošto je ona tu prenoćila, sutradan samo nije više bila tu žena, ona otišla, a to dete se izlečilo, počelo mnogo bolje da se osjeća, da se kreće jer je bilo u krevetu i to. I onda tako u suštini priča jeste zapravo o toj starici koja je išla iz grada u grad, iz naselja u naselje i pomagala deci. I to je slava koju mi nazivamo slava za, da kažem, decu, zaštitnica dece. A, na primjer, zanimljivo je to što je se u različitim gradovima slavi u različito vreme, baš zbog toga što je ona imala neku putanju kojom je šetala, kuda je išla. I onda, na primjer, ja sam iz Arilja, u Arilju se slavi negde tamo početkom marta, krajem februara, pa onda posle par dana se slavi u Požezi, pa posle par dana u Čačku, baš otprilike neki kao put koji je ona prošla, veruju da je prošla.
In 15th century, Spaniards came to Cuba and started to colonize the island. Once they came, Spaniards imposed a new system in Cuba, which we called colonization of the island. As a part of the process of colonization, they took the native population and integrated them into the Spanish society. But this integration was terribly violent, so a lot of native Cuban people decided not to follow the Spanish rule. They rebelled against the Spanish, and one of them was Hatui. Hatui's rebellion is said to be the first one against the Spaniards, and he represents the real spirit of the Cuban people. When Spaniards caught Hatui, they put him on a bonfire. Before they lit the fire, a priest asked Hatui if he wanted to say anything to atone for his sins so that he could go to heaven. Hatui then asked the priest, "Do the Spanish go to heaven as well?" And the priest answered, "Yes, the Spanish go to heaven." Then Hatui said, "No, I don't want to go to that heaven." Then Spaniards set the fire and Hatui died. Today, in the eastern part of Cuba, people often say that they have seen lights in the countryside. For them, it is the light of Yara, a village where the spirit of Hatui goes out every night because he could not go to heaven. It is said that he is still moving around the region where the rebellion happened and where he was killed. When you go to school, you learn the story about Hatui as a part of history. It appears in history books, but in a kind of mixture of legend and history. We cannot exactly know what happened in the 15th century, but the part that tells me it is a legend is when Hatui talks to a priest in fluent Spanish, although he's a Cuban native who opposed colonization. He is the first Cuban national hero and a symbol of liberty. Hatui is still present in Cuban popular culture. He's everywhere. There's even a brand of beer called after him.
Back in the day, everything was energy. But one day, different energies came to the earth in human forms to travel around, live a human life, and help humans by giving them all sorts of information. The energies were different. Each of them had their own temperament and vibration. There were three of them, three sisters, Ochun, Jamaja, and Oja. Ochun is yellow, sensual, and very feminine. She represents the energy of the ocean. Jamaja is blue and strong, and she represents the energy of the river. Oja has many colors, and she represents cemetery energy. These three sisters used to be just energy beams in human form until the Creator called everyone over to give them some powers. However, during this time, the three sisters were in trouble, and one of them had to stay and guard their castle. They decided for the Oja to stay in the castle, and Ochun and Jamaja went to the meeting with the Creator. There, they got their powers. Ochun got the ocean, and Jamaja got the river. Once the meeting ended, the sisters talked to the Creator and explained that their castle was in trouble and that the third sister, Oja, had to stay and guard it. They asked him to give power to Oja as well, saying that she deserved it because she was helping her sisters by guarding the castle. The Creator then gave her the cemetery because guarding this portal between life and death was the only power left. All three sisters got their powers. This story tells us how collaboration and compromise between people are important. Oja knew that she might not get any power, and she stayed to guard the castle anyway. But her sisters respected that and requested the Creator give their sister some power because of her sacrifice. Priča o dva brata. Ovo je priča o dva brata. Jedan je lud, jedan je normalan. E sad, taj normalan je imao svoju trgovačku radnju i nije puno ljubavi imao prema svom ludom bratu. A ovaj lud, on je klošario na sve strane. Išao je od ulice do ulice, prosio, pio, ali imao dobru dušu. Svakome dao, svakome pružio. Ali on sreće nije imao. Nije imao dece, nije imao ništa. E sad, krene on jednom stazom, starom stazom kreće. Te tako naiđe na ogromnu aždaju. Bila je tu ogromna aždaja koju su devojku mladu, devojku devicu, darovali kao žrtvu, zatvorenu među lancima. Oko tog mesta velikog obreda postojala je masa ljudi koji su gledali i čekali da aždaja uzme svoju žrtvu. Onaj ludi brat gleda ta gužva šta je, ali mu nije jasno zašto je gužva. Ne može da dođe do otvora da vidi šta se dešava i što su se ljudi okupili. Provuče se on nekako, mic po mic, mic po mic i nekako dođe on nekako u taj glavni krug veliki i gleda devojku vezanu koja bi baš pored vode. Vidi on da izlazi aždaja pravo da je uhvati. Ukoliko ona nju uhvati, bit će hrane i bit će pića, bit će i zdravlja, sve. A ukoliko ne dobije plen, neće biti ničega, sve će aždaja da ih poruši. Majka i otac mlade devojke lome ruke, boli duša, ali moraju da je daju, jednu jedinu. Šta će ludi, popne se gore na neki kamen visoki i gleda, čeka da vidi šta će to sad da naiđe. E sad, sedi on na jednom kamenu, gleda dole, ali primeti on jednu granu tačno njemu nad glavom, a velika je grana to bila. Otkine ludi tu granu i lud kao lud, kako sedi, tako pravi sebi. Ljušti, valjda da smiri živce sebi, tako ljušti, ljušti, ljušti i od te grane on napravi sebi jednu veliku sablju. Napravi on sablju sebi od velike grane i čeka 12 sati, tačno u ponoć. Kada je ponoć došla, izašla je aždaja iz vode. Kako je izašla, odmah se okomila na devojku. A ona da ćapi devojku, skoči ovaj lud iznenada i probode sabljom u oko kroz grkljan i aždaja pusti devojku. Devojka pade na pod, aždaja poče sve oko sebe da ruši. One rane koje joj je naneo ludi beše počeše da krvare, a aždaja u bolu da se baca. Devojče, videvši lokve aždajine krvi na zemlji, ruku svoju stavlja u njenu krv i gnoj i okrene se da mladića koji joj je upravo spasao život obeleži po leđima, a njemu ostade otisak njen. Svako na svoju stranu uhvati džadu. Sutradan devojka majici i ocu govori: ja tog dečka moram da nađem. Gde god da je, ja njega moram da nađem, on je meni život spasio. Da njega nije bilo, ja bi žrtva bila. A otac i majka je gledaju i kažu: dobro, kako ti kažeš. Selo po selo, sa majkom i sa ocem i na kraju ga nađu. A nađu ga u jednoj maloj kolibi kako spava njima okrenut leđima pokriven lišćem. Vojska kao vojska, careva ćerka, otkriju oni ono lišće, vide na njemu njen trag jer on je siromah i nema stvari na sebi da nosi i kako mu je ona ostavila trag, tako je trag i ostao. To je taj, kaže ona, a vojska kao vojska uhvati ga da krene sa njima. U palati staviše ga da kleči tačno pred ocem mlade princeze. Otac ga gleda i kaže: ti si taj, a ludi uzvrati: šta sam ja? A otac njemu: ti si taj koji je moju ćerku spasio. Njega car pogleda još jednom i kaže: ti si taj i ti ćeš da nam budeš zet. Ja ne mogu da ti budem zet, kaže ludi, a njemu uzvrati car: ne, samo ti možeš da mi budeš zet. I uzeše ga, okupaše ga, središe i namestiše ga i tog dana on je postao princ, a princezin muž.
La Milagrosa means a woman who performs miracles, but in this story, La Milagrosa did not perform any magic. She was a normal woman from Havana and her real name was Amelia. She fell in love with a poor guy. The problem was that she was a member of the aristocracy in Havana, so they could not get married. This happened around the time of Cuba's war for independence against Spain, and he fought against the Spanish. When the war ended, the whole political system changed, so when he came back, they were finally able to get married. However, they could not get kids for a long time. Eventually, she conceived, but she died while she was giving birth to her boy. The whole myth started after she died. Her husband used to go to her grave every day to talk to her. So he would come, knock, and talk to her. Eventually, the graveyard had to be rearranged, so the bodies were exhumed from the grave. During the exhumation process, they opened Amelia's coffin, only to realize that her corpse was wholly preserved. From that moment, she was named Milagrosa, because it was a miracle that her body was intact. Since then, her monument has been believed to have magical powers, especially for women who have problems having children. Thus, they started to go to her grave and ask for things, for having babies and for the protection of children. I learned this story while walking through the cemetery with my mother. We passed by the tomb of Milagrosa, and it's a beautiful tomb, a statue of a woman with a baby, and her eyes are amazing. When you walk around the statue, you must be turned toward her, and you shouldn't turn your back to Milagrosa. And you can see that the monument is always full of flowers, sometimes even papers with people's wishes and requests. These requests are mostly about fertility or about protecting the children, and they are usually written by mothers or by women who want to be mothers.
A parakeet is about to go to a wedding. He feels hungry, devours the first thing he sees, and it messes up his mouth. He goes to the weed and says, "Please, weed, clean my mouth." And the weed says, "No, I will not." Then he goes to the goat and says to the goat, "Please, goat, eat the weed because the weed doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the goat says, "No, I will not." Then he goes to the dog and says, "Please, beat the goat because it doesn't want to eat the weed that doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the dog says, "No, I will not." He goes to the stick and says to the stick, "Please, hit the dog because the dog doesn't want to beat the goat that doesn't want to eat the weed that doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the stick says, "No, I will not." Then he goes to the fire and says, "Please burn the stick that doesn't want to hit the dog, that doesn't want to beat the goat, that doesn't want to eat the weed, that doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the fire says, "No, I will not." Then he goes to the water. "Please put out the fire because it doesn't want to burn the stick, that doesn't want to hit the dog, that doesn't want to beat the goat, that doesn't want to eat the weed, that doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the water says, "No, I will not." So he goes to the sun and says, "Please, sun, evaporate the water because it doesn't want to put down the fire, that doesn't want to burn the stick, that doesn't want to hit the dog, that doesn't want to beat the goat, that doesn't want to eat the weed, that doesn't want to clean my mouth." And the sun says, "Yes, I will." When the sun went to evaporate the water said, "No, no, 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 I will put down the fire." And the fire said, "No, no, 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 I will burn the stick." And the stick said, "No, no, 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 I will hit